Stories are a really good way to use that kind of strategy, and also reflection. Create opportunities throughout the learning experience. Ask those questions. Give that time, whatever that looks like. If it's a workbook, great. If it's just a question that people stop and think, that's great too. It's whatever works, right, for the solution that you're creating.
Self-improvement is impossible without self-awareness, right? So if that's the case, how do we create opportunities for this and ultimately drive our learners to behavior change? The Kirkpatrick Level 3 Promised Land? In today's episode, we're going to dive into Jim and mine's favorite level, Level 3, with special guest Laine Istvan. You'll gain valuable insights on how to do successful behavior evaluation and walk away with some practical steps that you can immediately apply. Friends, before we get started, let's do our very quick Kirkpatrick update. Don't forget that we've got the Kirkpatrick community. And as a spoiler, because I keep hearing this a lot, the community is not for just those that are certified. I mean, yes, please come and join us if you are certified, but the Kirkpatrick community is for everyone. If you are interested in learning more about learning and performance, evaluation, instructional design, this is the community to help take all of those things and take evaluation and performance and drive business impact. And this is going to be your safe space that we could have those really hard conversations, and the place you're going to get some good answers. The next thing I want to make sure you all remember is that we've got the Kirkpatrick Toolkit. This is your one-stop shop to get the crash course in the model, in the updated version of the model, of course, and tools and templates that we use to do our own evaluations. Don't forget that we've got the Kirkpatrick Refresher course on October 26th, and we have a bronze program at the end of the month. Then that is not the last time, but the second to last time that you'll be able to get certified in 2024. But you want to know what? It's going to be really hard. We know how the holidays are for you to get certified in December. So don't even wait until December. Say yes today and join us in October. That way you can go into the holiday season being completely ready to take on 2025. And very finally, good. If we wait, it's never going to happen. And I cannot believe I'm even talking about the holidays right now. This is what. But most importantly, not really most importantly, maybe most importantly to me, because we've got Laine here today and she was at the inaugural, the Kirkpatrick 2025 Summit is officially on our hunt for the first round of speakers. And enrollment is open for attendance. It is going to be hosted next year, 2025, September 9th to 11th in Dulles, Virginia. So we'll be back at the Executive Conference and Training Center where the food was delish, and the community was even better. With that, we want to make sure that you have your opportunity to either put it in your budget for next year or buy your ticket today, because we want to make sure to see you there. It was truly a transformative experience. And with that, I want to introduce Laine again. Laine is the owner and chief learning designer of Sage LXD. She's a former teacher, we love our teachers, who transitioned to L&D in 2020. Since then, she collaborated with multiple organizations, both as a full-time and freelance instructional designer, to create leadership development programs, graduate level courses, corporate onboarding, and this is a cool one, mindfulness programs for educators. Laine is passionate about well-being and self-development and brings this enthusiasm to create learning solutions that help people bring their best selves to the workplace. She's a busy mom of 2 teens, love following you on Facebook and seeing them grow up, who lives in Tampa, Florida with her family. She loves hiking in the mountains, reading self-help books, and journaling. Laine, welcome so much to the Kirkpatrick podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited to see you again. It has been quite some time. Can you give our audience just a little bit more about your background and maybe your introduction to the Kirkpatrick model?
Sure. I, like like my introduction said, I'm a former teacher. Before I was a teacher, I actually was in the corporate space. I did some creative stuff, marketing, advertising. I worked in radio. And
Ooh.
then, yeah, that was very interesting. It was fun. And then, but I always wanted to be a teacher. And when I got to the point where we were ready to start a family, my husband's a first responder. So really needed a schedule that was very steady and structured for my kids. So I thought that it would be the perfect opportunity to go into teaching. So I did. I spent 15 years in the classroom, everything from K through 8,
Oh,
and worked with gifted kids. I have lots of behavior problems, so I learned a lot there. And my last assignment was teaching seventh grade civics. And those 12 and 13-year-olds, it's required in the state of Florida that they pass an EOC, an end of course exam, in order to graduate high school from seventh grade.
oh my
Wow,
goodness.
wait.
Yes.
Okay. Now, okay, I'm connecting dots here. Wow, okay.
I thought, oh, no one is not going to graduate because of me. So that's when I really started digging into finding different types of activities and collaborative learning ways for my students to really just work with this content, because let's face it, civics can be a little bit boring for some. And so that's why I really fell in love with the instructional design process. I went back, I got my master's in 2020, and that's where I was introduced to the Kirkpatrick model. And I took a course on evaluation. And it's funny, the book that we were required to read was the original, the brown hardcover. Jim's rolling his eyes.
Jim, I'm working on it. I promise. I'm working on it.
I don't know. It's out there. I don't know if you can take it back. But funny,
Wow.
that was in 2019. So August of 2019. And
Yeah.
yeah, just being,
I believe that. And I hear that too often that
yeah,
even as colleges are talking about Kirkpatrick, it's Don Kirkpatrick. That book was the 1993 version.
Mhm.
And I've even seen the syllabus. Oh, here's level 1, level 2, level 3. And level 4 is really unattainable. So we don't really deal with that. It's amazing what the colleges are doing and are not updating things at all. Their old curriculum. Oh, that just, oh,
absolutely. I know
Yeah, now you're going to become unhinged. That's an episode right there. That's going to be a future unhinged
that's a
episode.
great
I could
episode.
do
Yeah.
that. Yes.
But I did actually expand, and I was very surprised to find the next edition written by Jim and Wendy and learned that the model had been expanded. So, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, I have to know before we get started, K through 8th, which was the hardest grade to teach?
So different levels of hard, right? Different types of hard. Um, but I would have to say middle school. Middle
I
school
said the
is
same thing.
not, yeah, it's not for
Yeah.
the faint of heart.
No.
One day they love you, one day they hate you. They're
Mhm.
talking about you behind your back. They're making memes about you. And I say that from experience, actually. I've had a couple memes made about me. It's
Hmm.
probably their ultimate love language, but yeah, definitely not for the weak.
Yeah, I definitely lots of love to our teachers and certainly those in middle school. I also feel the same. So for those of us that may not be as familiar, can you briefly explain your understanding of the third level of evaluation and why behavior evaluation is critical to drive meaningful change in the workplace?
Absolutely. So when I first was introduced to the model, I was asked by my professor how I would rank them. And I had said results and then 1, 2, and 3. But as I have, worked in the field and practice instructional design, I've come to love level 3. And so for those that aren't familiar, yay. For those that aren't familiar, level 3 is all about monitoring and checking on that performance and that implementation at their environment, whether that's, their workplace or someplace else, because the model can be applied really in so many different ways. So whatever it is that you're trying to measure based on what was taught, that is what level 3 is. It's using different tools to make sure and identify like how people are applying that in their new environment. Because, if we're familiar with the forgetting curve, like that's a week, right? A week after people learn what they learned, they only really remember, the data says, close to 20%. So most people aren't going to take what they learned and immediately apply it and be perfect at it. So there has to be a next level, right? A next phase that follows up with them and helps them do that.
You mentioned, go ahead. I wrote it down. I'll say it down.
Oh, good, because I don't write anything down. Your girl is Dory. As I'm forgetting it mid-sentence. What I love what you said about, the fact that people aren't necessarily going to remember is that they will remember if, and this is the big if, they found the content relevant to them and their work, and they believe it's going to somehow help them, right? Level 1. And they have the confidence that they will be able to they'll be able to perform or, perform the action, do the thing that you want them to do afterwards, or at least have the confidence to know where to go to find that answer. And so, I think that when we talk about, the levels, you want to sometimes talk about them so separately, or like in a scaffolding situation, and they really all blend really well together, because if they didn't find it relevant, they're not going to remember it. They're not even going to pay attention to you. If they don't have the confidence, they're going to go back to their comfort zone. So you're never going to see that behavior change. So you need to have that support. And from that foundation of level 1 and 2, to be able to achieve level 3. So Jim, what were you going to say?
Well, I heard 3 words that all started with M. And one was monitoring, one was measure, and one was make sure. And usually what we hear is the second one, and that is measuring. And so many people still think that level 3 is about, we got to measure something at 30 days or measure something, whether it's surveys, or whatever. But you use the word monitoring, which is different. That to me is the fingers on the pulse, not just waiting 60 days or whatever, but monitoring along the way in order to make sure. See, and that's what we have to do at level 3. It is not automatic if we measure. It's not automatic if they learn it, but it becomes automatic if you're monitoring and making those adjustments on what is working and what isn't. The 59 days before day 16. I'm glad you just gave us a nice little model there using 3 words starting with M. So, way to go with that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I agree with that as well, because just having that training, right, and it is relevant, right, as Vanessa said, hopefully, and then they do have that confidence, but there still has to be that extra piece, right, because people are busy and people have busy lives. So if it's important enough to train on it, and it's important enough to the organization for their success, whatever they're trying to achieve, then it's important enough to monitor it and measure it and make sure it happens.
Yeah. And I think, and to your point, people are busy. And I think that what we don't remember, and I don't know if I don't remember, but until I got into working with one of my customers that does a lot in neuro leadership and neuroscience, I didn't really think too much about the brain. I'm not going to lie. Our brain is designed to create shortcuts for us, right? And to keep us safe.
Oh.
Literally why your brain is there, right? And so if we think about that and now apply it to learning, well, if it's creating shortcuts, the shortcut is I'm going to do things the way that I've always been done. I know how to do that. That's a shortcut because we are busy and I know how to do it. It's automatic, right? And then the second is keep us safe. And when we do something different and we try something different, we try to design differently, right? We try to encourage the the development of monitoring activities and support activities after the training, right? More of that performance package, like we call it. Now you're out of the safe zone. You're out of the comfort zone, which automatically you are not 100% sure if this is going to be accepted by others, if it's going to go well. So what do you naturally want to do? Retreat back into your comfort zone because we want to be safe. And so there's that push pull and a lot of mindset work that you have to do in order to feel comfortable in the uncomfortable.
That is so true. Mindset is, nobody wants to hear that.
No.
That it's mindset, but a lot of times it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's too woo-woo for some people, maybe.
It is, but I'm here for that.
I'm here for the woo.
Yeah.
Now, once learners achieve, what are some strategies, I should say, that you have to help learners get to self-awareness, and maybe some of those mindset things that you incorporate within your programs to be able to help them feel like they can do this and create that behavior change?
I'm a huge proponent of stories and scenarios. I just feel like sometimes it can be work, right? Because you kind of have to do that market research with your learners, with your people, because if you develop the wrong story, then it's not going to be relevant, right? It's not going to be meaningful. So for sure, I think having those conversations is key, but taking that information, developing it into a story that people can relate to, either they see themselves in that or they see someone that they know. And so it's not necessarily you do this, you do that. It's seeing that behavior in someone else that it kind of moves it into that third person. And so I feel like people can relate to that and look at a person in the story with empathy, right? And understand what they're going through. That can lead to that transformation of, oh, maybe I do that too. Or I'm not doing that, or whatever that is. And how can I apply that in my life? I feel like it's not really a threatening way, right? Stories are, they're stories. Everybody loves stories, and it's that emotional connection. So I feel like stories are a really good way to use a kind of strategy, and also reflection, create opportunities throughout the learning experience. Ask those questions, give that time, whatever that looks like. If it's a workbook, great. If it's just a question that people stop and think, that's great too. It's whatever works, right, for the solution that you're creating. And if possible, have them practice, give them an opportunity to practice with a peer group or get some feedback or a mentor.
Nice. Yeah, that practice is good, because I hear a lot of people talking about, here's what you could do, here's what you should do. Yeah. But I don't think much of that gets through that will inspire them and teach them what to do. It's got to be the story that inspires them to listen, and emotional. The stories are supposed to be emotional too, aren't they? Captures not just their logic, but their heart and their spirit. And then that practice, even though I'm a clinical psychologist, and going through my PhD program, we always had to do some videotaping. My heart would just, I pretended I was sick that day, because they would bring in pretend clients, and because then they'd have a little thing in the ear, and I'd hear the guy looking through the one-way mirror, confront. I'm going, well, what do I do? But it's really good stuff to videotape people, and you can really see the truth rather than just talk about it. So I'm with you. So I didn't like it, but I still don't like it, but it's a really good way to do it.
But it's necessary. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I so agree. I mean, who really enjoys that, right? The playback of their own voice or how they look on video. I've heard of Toastmasters, how they used to people were practicing their speeches, and they used filler words, and they'd ring a bell every time.
Like ding ding.
I see stories about that on social media. Like, people remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. People do remember stories, and I think Jim, one thing you always say is, you want them to, you want to tell the story and then you want them to take action, right? So what story can we tell that helps to inspire that action? And sometimes you do have to have that space of self-reflection and space to be able to build that awareness to then help them inspire action, right? We live in a noisy world. I don't know, our phones are buzzing, our computers are buzzing, our email, this and that, I'm getting, you get furniture delivered in the middle of a podcast episode. These things are all happening at the same time, that if you don't have have that time to stop and think for a moment, it's really hard for you to then later on say, oh, how am I going to like actually apply what it is that I just learned? You know what I mean? Or how does this affect me? And you have to do it in the moment, because we're not going to go back to do it, because we're on to the next thing.
I've got two questions to ask, and they're related. The first one is, not just a little background about Vanessa. You have your walking time, don't you? What time do you usually walk?
5:30 in the morning.
Okay, 5:30. Well, don't call me that. No, but that's reflection time. So here's the first question: is when you are reflecting, it wouldn't have to be a 5:30 walk, but a 2 a.m. wake up or something you're excited about. What excites you that you really are excited about actually doing something with? Give us an example of that.
What has been a recent 2 a.m. wake up? For me, it's lately, has been working on operationalizing the business and creating more structure.
Okay. We've talked about that some. Now, for a guest, how about same question for you?
I sleep really well. There's not much that's going to wake me up at 2 a.m., but something that I'm excited about, taking my business, just the things that I'm doing with it, and taking it in a new direction, and thinking about how I'm going to bring that vision into reality. That's exciting.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you both the same question, only the opposite. What creates anxiety when something comes to your mind professionally? Vanessa first, what gives you worry or anxiety,
For me, it's walking into the unknown.
Oh, can you say, I'm curious, can you say more about that? Because that surprises me.
You always worry about whether or not you're taking people to, in this case, into a wrong direction, you're going to make a bad decision. So, walking into, and it's not a place I've ever walked, operationalizing, such a large business. I've never done that before. So we'll see if I'm not going to curse, F it up. Or if we do it well, you know what I mean? And I hope that I do things that are not going to create additional problems, that I didn't foresee. The easier thing for me is to do things the way that I've always been done them, but that's probably not the best solution for the future.
Okay.
That's honest.
Same question.
Yeah.
How about you?
For me, I can let my day get away from me. So if I don't have structure, if I don't have time blocking, then the tasks that I need to do can pile up, and then I'll procrastinate, and then that will give me anxiety. So I have to be very structured with my day.
Okay. And the reason I bring this up, Vanessa, is what you said. We live in such a fast-paced world, always doing something, and it's so important to just take a time out, isn't it? And kind of listen to your spirit, listen to your heart, listen to your motives, or whatever it is, and ponder it. What am I not doing that I really would like to do and could do, or what are the things that are blocking me, that are weakening my spirit and my resolve? And I just think that's so important to, now that I'm not working all that much as I used to do when I was full time and involved with the Kirkpatrick operations. I get time to do that, and then I can change my behavior and change my spirit due to some of those things. So I just think it's so important to do that. Not easy.
Yeah. And I have that reflection. And I think to your point, you've been able to be more creative.
Wow.
And have that time, when we are so bogged down, we don't have that break or you don't have that reflection. I don't know. For me, that's when I'm like literally the least creative human on this entire earth. And that's actually part of the reason why I wanted to move to Florida, was because I knew I was going to be able to have more outdoor time. I was going to be able to have more time in the sun. And those were two things that I knew was going to help me slow down and just stop a little bit so that I did have that time, so I could do that reflection.
And see, that's neat because that reflection can lead to honesty with yourself, either what's anxious or what it is you think you should be doing. And then that helps drive, how do you get there? Like, for instance, I know someone that once said that she wants to take a whole month of December off. Well, and that takes some thought, some reflection of that, and then you kind of plan it out so that you can get there. And like you said, moving to Florida, you're setting yourself up for success, and not the first person to say that.
And just to tie it back to the model, because why not? I didn't, you didn't just make that declaration and do the research on what you had to do in order to, let's say, take the month of December off, right? You have to plan and put the things in place and say, am I on track to meet that goal? And what is that support that I'm going to need to maybe redirect me from time to time to ensure that I am still going to honor what it is that I want to do, which I know is going to be better for me, is to be able to do something like that.
Are you suggesting the Kirkpatrick model and Stephen Covey, beginning with the end in mind, can work with personal things as well as professional things?
I am not just suggesting it, I am stating it.
You are right.
I'm declaring it.
Imagine that. But what I think is at the heart of all of that is that self-awareness, right? Thinking about what you want, what you value, and looking at what are the barriers that are going to get in the way or have been getting in the way. And am I being honest with myself? Am I being truthful about,
that's great,
A, what I want, but B, my own behaviors that are sabotaging my goals?
Now, I can imagine that there are people that just don't care, right? We're like, I'm here, I'm being told I have to implement this new way, but I really don't have any interest in changing things. And, I'm happy doing things the way they've always been done. How do you handle that to be able to, because we know the best is to create that change, right? Hopefully, you're not creating a solution and without informed decision-making, right? And plan. How do you handle that as a professional or as a manager?
That's such a good question. I really think that it starts with empathy, right? And understanding that everybody comes from a different walk, a different place, right? They have different goals. They have different, what motivates someone at work might not motivate the next person. So I think just having that understanding and always assuming positive intent, just go into that with no expectations, just a clean slate. I'm not expecting anything. I'm truly, genuinely interested in you and, what you bring to the table. And also role modeling, just being that example for people it can be huge, because I think you're right. Sometimes the environment in an organization isn't necessarily conducive for that, or the values of the organization, the leadership, so at the end of the day, I feel like we're all responsible for the energy that we bring to everything that we do. And sure, there are going to be people that we won't be able to reach. And that's not a me problem. What I can control is what I can control.
Right. I love what you said about assuming positive intent. And this could be another unhinged episode, but I think sometimes as a profession, we don't assume positive intent because we've become jaded. We're tired. If we're honest, we're burnt out. And we probably haven't had that self-reflection time or that the time to become more self-aware. So when we go into the development of something or, whatever the case may be, it's almost like, oh, well, they're not even going to bother to do this anyway. I don't even know why I'm here and why I'm trying. And you may assume that doesn't come across, but it really does. You can tell the difference between someone that really believes and has that conviction in what it is that they're training you on, or, whatever the case may be. And if you don't think that's true, I want you to really think about the last time you were sold on something and the last time you said no to a salesperson. The key to a really good salesperson is them truly believing in the product and how it can benefit you. And if that person on the other line that's trying to sell you something doesn't really believe that it's going to work for you, and you could tell they're just trying to sell you something because they have to, right? They're trying to meet their numbers. You are not close to buying. However, that person that has your interest in heart, they really believe in the product, they believe in the outcome, they believe in the transformation. You can sense that, and you are at a much higher likelihood of making that sale or being part of that sale.
It's that emotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's that feeling.
Yeah.
And I think as much as we really want to be logical thinking beings, which we are, first and foremost, we're emotional. We always feel something first.
I resent that. I can't believe you said that. What do you mean by that? Oh, it's terrible. No, you couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm. So what are some ways that the audience can take away some best practices or strategies to apply to their own programs to enhance behavior evaluation and behavior change?
So earlier I mentioned observation, right? I think observing and having those conversations, doing that market research is really going to be key, so that if you're going to speak to that emotional side, really understand what that emotional side is, because it's not always what we think it is. Sometimes we think that this is the problem, or we've been told that this is the issue, right? And we have to do our due diligence as learning professionals to really get to the heart of what is it? When we ask the question, is training a solution? It's along those lines, right? Like, let's dig a little deeper and figure out what's really at the core of this. So I think number one, that's important. And just finding ways to implement those things that we've talked about, opportunity for reflection and peer support, just finding ways for people to be able to use and apply those skills safely. Because, we didn't really touch on it, but psychological safety is also very important, when people are trying to implement something new or try something new or do something new. And I know we didn't use those words, Vanessa, but you did mention it earlier when you talked about
I thought about it.
So having that confidence and feeling like, we're going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to make mistakes, but recognizing that that's okay and feeling safe to do that. And, we've also talked about in our industry, not being order takers. We really should, do the best that we can to tell whoever it is that we're working with, like, this is the best practice. This is what's going to work, and include that evaluation strategy all the way through. I don't always think that we do that collectively. Creating that evaluation piece side by side, right, with the learning experience. Really important.
Well, it comes at the end of the ADDIE model. The ADDIE model says that it has to come at the end. Yeah, I think psychological safety, we should do a whole episode on for sure, because that's a lot of the problem, is that people don't feel safe to perform the behaviors. But no one wants to say that. because it may mean that there are some people in the environment that shouldn't be there or doing things that you don't want them to do, right? It's much easier to blame the training solution it didn't work as opposed to blaming the environment. That's a bigger conversation with much bigger consequences than cutting a training program or, feeling like you're cutting a department.
Absolutely. If you're the person who is saying something that's not a popular opinion, that definitely can feel and be scary.
Laine, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time and your approach to evaluation at level 3. It's different. It's not what a lot of people really talk about. We talk about how are we checking behavior changes happening and creating all these things. And what you're really asking is for people to stop and take a moment to reflect and like understand their mindset, which I think is so crucial and important. Where can our listeners find you?
Oh, I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn.
Love
I'm probably the only Laine Istvan out there.
Love it. Laine, thank you so much for being here. Jim, thank you for your amazing insights as always. And friends, make sure you like, share, and subscribe and leave us a review. We definitely want to hear your feedback, of course. And we will catch you all on the next episode. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laine.